You know that day when you rocked up at high school and you were supposed to start choosing the subjects for VCE? You were supposed to start choosing the subjects that were going to create the educational pathway to your future. And maybe you had a parent that helped you with it. Maybe you had a sibling that had gone before you. Maybe there was an uncle that said, you should study this. But ultimately, I don't know too many of my peers walked into those sessions going, I know exactly what I want to be. I know exactly what my gift is, and I know what's going. Now, look, mind, there are plenty of people like that. Max Verstappen was going to be a Formula One, champion from the age of 2.5, as far as we can tell. Not me, not so much anyway. I remember going into those things thinking, I think I'll just choose subjects that I feel like I'm going to like. I'm going to maybe do okay at, or maybe I've done okay at them so far. But the pressure, I remember the pressure because I think you're about 15, 14, 15, and they got this book out that was a careers book. Yes, for those of you listening in the digital age, yes, they put a physical book in front of us and said, flick through these pages. Inside these pages are a bunch of careers that you can choose, as if you could actually be that specific when you're 14, 15. You're like, so far I've been a paper boy and I've delivered milk. That's what maybe I've put hay bales out on the farm and done a few things, but there's no real career path, presenting itself just yet. And look, dear listener, back in the day, being an influencer wasn't an option. Okay, that just was never, I was never saying to my dad, I'm going to be a YouTuber. That was not a thing. I feel like a lot of teenagers say that these days. Anyway, here's the point. I remember looking at that thing and thinking, I don't know, I might be a cartoonist. My genius reason was I liked cartoons. I thought they were funny. I thought they were right. I could sort of draw, maybe, kind of, sort of. And so I decided to do art. And turns out art, I like art, not so good at art. Did marry an art therapist who does abstract expressionism. She can do it. I can't. That's been a good outcome for me in the end. But when I went through that book, I didn't find a job jump off the page at me and say, you should do this. And I remember feeling that pressure, feeling like I'm supposed to make a decision. Now, mind, the adults around us probably weren't saying that. That's just what it felt like as a young man. And now I'm watching my children go through this process as well. I've got 2 teenagers that are moving into adulthood super fast. I can't quite believe it. And they're asking me the question, Dad, what should I do? And I still come back to the old cliche, and I know it's not a cop-out, and I'll discuss it with my friend Heath in a moment. I don't think it's a cop-out to say, follow your heart. There's something in you that I want to draw out of you. I want to encourage the thing that's beautiful in you. I want to draw out the thing that excites you and switches you on each and every day. This is what James 4:17 says. It says, whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens, and he never changes or casts a shifting shadow. To me, that says there's a gift in you that is actually a godly thing. It's placed there by the Creator. And I think one of our jobs as parents is to try and draw out that good and perfect gift that was right there in their DNA all along. Let's have a chat about it. My name is Justin Michael, and this is Father Figures. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the very, very super special edition of Father Figures, because in the studio we have possibly the most gifted man on the planet. I'm not sure, dear listener, but let's put it to a poll. All the other votes.
Let's not.
In the house, Mr. Heath McSullivan. What up, fella?
Oh, brother, it's always good to be here and good to see your smiley face. And in these times of Donald Trump coming in as next elected president, this is tremendous. It's tremendous to be here. This is the greatest podcast in the world.
Greatest podcast in the world.
Everybody says it is.
Everyone says. You have to just read the data. Read the data. It's all there. The data's all there. By the way, why you didn't run this time?
No, I opted out. I have run back in the 70s. I was very young, but it's a complicated process, and with Twitter.
Are you still living in the 70s? Or no, that's
I'm living in the 90s, man. Best 20 years of my life.
An Eddie Vedder song just came into your mind, didn't it? That was a great lyric. I loved that song. It moved me.
Eddie Vedder, I don't know what he wrote. It's like a...
Sorry, can you talk for a bit?
Bit of Bob Dylan in there as well, really, isn't there? It's a bit of like, we're not quite sure what they're saying, but that doesn't really matter. Talking of gifts and talented people,
the time they are changing.
Well, that's it. I mean, what talented folk they were.
Well, I heard Tom York say recently, Tom York, for all those kids listening online, was from a band called Radiohead, and he said, well, true. He is Radiohead. I don't know. I don't even know who else is in Radiohead.
No, nor do I. But that's okay. Great band.
Basically, great band.
It's a bit like one singer. It's a bit like Coldplay. Chris Martin.
No, he said Chris Martin and
the others,
those other guys.
Yeah.
That hit the drums during Vive La Vida. We don't really know what's going on.
U2's got Bono and The Edge, and then the other guys.
The other guys.
Yeah.
So the point of what I was trying to say was that Tom York said that we need to keep singing sad songs. We keep trying to sing. We're not in touch with our sad song enough. And I went, you know what? In the 90s, the emo rock and the grunge rock that we had, there was a lot of sadness going on, and we were there for it.
Yeah, man.
We were there for it.
That's how Bruno Mars came to fame, isn't it? He just brings out a few happy songs, and and everyone's like, this is what we've been missing. You know, a bit of goodness.
Yeah, but now we need more sadness.
Everything comes around, doesn't it? Full circle.
Yeah.
We'll be singing hymns again before we know it.
Oh, yeah. Well, at some point we should start singing from the same songbook at least. So my question to you is, you're a young man in the prime of your life. You're 11 and you're ready to take on the world. What are you good at when you're 11? Do you remember?
Oh, man. 11 was one of my favorite ages, I remember, because my favorite footballer from Essendon, whose name was Alan Stoneham, who nobody would remember, wore number 11. And number 11 was my favorite number, so Alan Stoneham. So anyway, when I was 11, look, it's a great question because I don't know. I mean, gosh, at 51, I barely know what I want to be when I grow up. So, when you're 11, what hope have you got of ever knowing? But you touched on it before, because I think, one of the things that I'm so grateful for growing up is almost parents. They didn't use the words "follow your heart," but they never kind of went, "Do you think you should go to uni? Do you think you should?"
Okay.
They just let me. I went through a private school education. They spent thousands of dollars.
I can tell that about you too.
It's clearly evident. Boy. I know, very much so.
You actually wear a lot of tweed most days, so.
And I've got jackets with patches on the elbows.
No, Homer, it's not a leather jacket with tweed elbows.
But private school education. Then got to the end of it, and after year 12, became a carpet layer. Because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and somebody offered me a job, and I just wanted to be a musician. So I was a carpet layer, and then I left the carpet laying world to play drums full time. Like 1991, who's playing? Like, you don't need to earn much money in 1991. I'm still living at home.
No,
but that was that encouragement of it. It wasn't the words "follow your heart," but it was the sentiment of, well, just do that. Go and do that for now. I've proved them wrong, though. Look at me now.
I
doing a podcast with you.
Yeah, look at. Said you'd never make it. No, but I think the idea of being in a supported environment where the exact nature of life was never really discussed. I think I grew up in potentially a similar space where Mum desperately wanted me to become a teacher, and I'm still going to apologize, Jules. I'm sorry I never became a teacher. She's still a little upset about that. because she's so passionate about education. She loves education. Her and Dad both are very passionate about their teaching. I just had this sense, and maybe similar to you, of I wanted to be a musician. And they had encouraged me in music all those years. They'd, helped me, buy a trombone and a French horn and all the brass instruments. And we talked about that before. But basically, the implied idea was this thing could be the thing you do. That's kind of implied. Dad never taught me about tax law or aeronautics, so I was never going to go into those fields. But they got great joy from singing and playing music, and so did I. And I think there was the only pressure I ever felt was, as I say, to become a teacher, a school teacher. And the only reason I didn't do that is because I felt that if I did my BEd, then I would end up in a job that I knew I'd be pretty good at. I felt like I'd be good at that, but I also felt like I would then rely on that.
Mhm.
And the reason I mention that is I think my folks gave me the confidence. And again, from a faith background, there was always that understanding of everything's a faith step anyway, that you'll be able to leap into the unknown and land somewhere. So for you, you're laying carpet, and I'm trying to imagine you doing manual work. No, I
Hey,
know you've got your own shovels and hammers.
I
I know
resemble that comment.
exactly. Well done, Dad. Good
Yeah,
work.
thanks.
But you're laying carpet. So how do you get into a full-time band playing drums? What happens there?
Oh, because so where I worked, all through high school, I wasn't allowed to grow my hair long. And
Sorry, I love that I asked a question about drumming, and your reply is, all through high school, I wasn't able to grow my hair long. There's a correlation here, kids,
it's
between
coming.
long hair
Stay with
and
me.
rebellious rock and roll.
Well, it
Come at
was.
me.
So then I started growing my hair when I finished year 12. Become a carpet layer. A year into being a carpet layer, my hair's starting to get long. The carpet laying
Right.
company said, no, you need to cut your hair. We think you don't look like somebody that we want to have, represent our company.
You don't look like a carpet layer.
I'm a
What
carpet
does a
layer,
carpet layer
right?
look like?
So ultimately, I kind of said,
Is there a haircut that goes with carpet laying?
it clearly wasn't the one that I had. So I
Yeah.
quit and went, no, I'm not going to cut my hair.
Right.
I might have trimmed it or something, but I remember going, no, I'm not doing this. What I want to do is play drums. And so
Right.
left, and it was about the same time that sort of some an independent sort of artist was coming up, and she was looking for a drummer, and I auditioned to play in her band and got accepted, and then went off and toured with them for a few years, and had a great time.
So come on, you got to. Do we know the artist?
Well, Marilyn Watson, Marilyn,
Right.
Dave Carter, so they're quite big now in the country music
Country
theme,
scene.
and you know them because you've sung with Marilyn.
Well, do you know what? I've never sung with Marilyn.
Oh well, you sang on the
Marilyn
same
has
song.
Yes, and thanks to Marilyn Carter for singing on some of the songs that we did back in the day with Gus.
Yeah.
But no, I can't even. I don't know if we ever hung out.
If you actually met her, well, there you go. Well,
Yeah.
Marilyn's
Maybe
lovely.
because of what you told her about me, and she was like, "I'm not,"
and so she would never borrow it. Now, fair call too.
Exactly.
So
you're
started
traveling.
playing in her band.
You're traveling as a drummer on playing sort of country rock. Was it at the time? It doesn't matter.
No, it would have been just sort of like Christian rock. I don't even know what that.
Which is country rock. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. Look, I can't remember
all out of
exactly. It's a
Nashville.
long time ago. You had a great time.
It's a long time ago, and I still can't remember where one was.
No.
Yeah. So, but that's the era where, again, you're living at home. You're living at home. You haven't got many overheads.
Yeah.
You can live off not a lot. You're probably getting paid not a lot.
Correct.
But you're having a ball and you're having all those experiences. What I love about that story is that it speaks to the safety of the environment that you were in to even do that in the first place. And I think that for us doing the figuring out fathering thing, when we look at the gifts that we have that have been called out, or on the flip side, the gifts that we feel have been crushed at times too, those things well, do you feel like they're so much clearer now, or is it more blurry now? You're 50. Are you more specific? You walk into the room now, you know what you're good at.
Yeah, I think I definitely am more comfortable with what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. But I still think that I'm like, yeah, I'll give that a crack. It might not be very good, but actually,
Yeah.
great example, a sporting example. I don't know, it would be 10 years ago now. I used to play a bit of cricket, growing up as a kid and in my teenage years. Didn't play for probably 15, 20 years. Went and played some
Mm.
indoor cricket with some friends. Realized in a very short period of time, I can't bat anymore. Or can I bowl? Yeah, that was a
I didn't
complete
know that
surprise
at
to
all.
me. It was a complete surprise. I'm like, what has happened to my ability to hit a
Mm,
ball and bowl one? So it just lost
mm.
over time, but it didn't stop me from trying. I all of a sudden
Yeah.
just became the one that
Well,
nobody wanted on their team.
but again, you got picked last
Yeah,
again.
correct.
But the confidence of that grown man, even though your body is doesn't do what it used to do, there's
Mm.
still that belief that you bring to the plate. And I look at my kids and I think that's all I want for them.
Yeah.
I want them to come to the plate thinking I can. I can find a place. Or if I'm not good at the thing I desperately want to be good at, that's not going to ruin me.
Mm.
So I've coached the boys in basketball, and it's been interesting coaching them because you sit on the sidelines and you try not to do the favor, you try not to favor your own kid and give them all the court time or whatever it is. There's ways you go about things, but at times I would have to bench them and say, "This is what just happened,"
Mm.
and they would look at me and just go, "No, no, no,
Mm.
you're wrong." And I remember those moments because I had a choice to either double down and tell them off. But what I recognized was this weird mix of self-belief coming up against instruction.
Mm.
And so the instruction that I'm trying to give them is your self-belief is over the top. It is disproportionate to the talent you have. But I also I want to give instruction, but I don't want to crush their self-belief.
Mm.
Because as I've often said to them, the world will smack you around. Like
Yeah.
the world's going to have its best shot at crushing your dreams.
Yeah.
But trying to find people in our lives that will instruct whilst recognizing how to hold that tension delicately, that says there's a self-belief there that I need. I need you to have some self-belief for you to develop any skill and talent. But then you need to have the humility to gain instruction in those things. And so I keep coming back to that thought of how do we, because surely at times you just want to say, kid, you suck at this. I'm sure you've never said that because you're a nice guy.
I say it all the time, but in jest, and then they hope that they see that little smile on my face at the end of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, the meal you cooked is great, kid. We really
yeah,
like
great,
it.
we
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah. How do you find, having 5 kids, 5 different,
Mm.
talents, skill levels, all those kind of things? How do you find the difference between, particularly as a dad, knowing the ones that you've got to encourage a little bit more than the ones that you've got to taper down with you got to let the skill level and the instruction match up a little better?
Yeah. So the thing that's shocked me is I feel like our kids have actually been connected to quite positive schooling experiences, quite positive leadership experiences. So there was probably a point where my son, who's now 18 and heading into adulthood, um, I was really shocked at his self belief, which I interpreted as arrogance.
Mhm.
And so I had to check myself so many times when he appeared confused by the instruction that I was giving him to say, no, you didn't do the task well. No, you didn't complete the job. No,
Yeah.
you didn't achieve at the level you thought you did. Those sorts of things. Um, and then I think Jody and I have worked really hard to give the kids what you and I have just talked about, the give anything a crack, give it a go, you can do it kind of
Mhm.
approach. But ultimately, I think, the more instructive parent. And where Jody has more of that, just love them anyway and just tell them they're great. I do feel, and maybe the other dads around listening feel this too. I do feel at times I am the one to say, no, that's not your thing. So I know that doesn't quite answer your question, but that's the filter I take into every conversation with the kids, which is obviously age appropriate and then skill set appropriate. I was blown away last year. My again, going back to my eldest son, he wrote and recorded a song, and he's done it again this year for his VCE media studies. The media study part of it was making a film clip, so he decided to write and record a song.
Yeah, great.
Now, mind, he's never played in the band at church. I've never seen him play in a band with friends. I've never seen. He picks up a guitar and he strums a chord every now and again, and he likes R&B. So I had not heard anything, and he goes, "Oh, art show's coming up, whatever it was. Come and see. My song's there." I said, "Your what?" He goes, "My song." I said, you wrote a song." And my head's like, oh, crumbs, he hasn't asked me. Like, I'm the guy that's been writing stuff.
You're the songwriter in the house, yeah.
Yeah, is the form and the structure and the melody, and I'm going through all the technical things. Anyway, he plays it for me, and I just about fell over.
Wow.
Because it had structure, it had melody, it had a great lyric, it had all of the things you'd look for in a song, and it was definitely better than the first song I ever wrote. And I think from that, I've taken that little cue of, again, we know this, we think we know this, but our kids are learning by absorbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're listening, they're following, they're understanding more than you realize, they're intuiting, they observe us, then they absorb it, and then they repeat it. And if you're seeing something back that you're not liking in your kids, chances are...
yeah, look in the mirror.
Looking in a mirror. Isn't that horrible? So I'm sorry, that's a very broad way of trying to answer the question of how do I approach the different children. But that's kind of the approach. I try to ask them, what are you into at the moment? What's exciting you?
It's
what's
true.
the thing that I want to draw out of you? So yeah, the gifts you would expect that the gifts probably are going to line up with mine and my wife's gifts, but you never know. But for you, again, going into co-parenting and going through a few different seasons now with the boys, is it weird seeing them, you only see them sort of half the time. So do they surprise you more, or are they fairly consistent? How does that work?
Yeah, I think definitely on occasion you do. And particularly, with when they're, say, learning a musical instrument, you might not hear them for a few days or a week or something. And then you do, and you're like, wow, you've really improved in the last week, so you tend to notice those things, or you notice how much they've grown when you don't see kids when they go through a growth spurt. It looks like they've grown a foot, in 3 days. And, for me, I really love the idea of my kids becoming better at something than I was. I want my kids to be a better drummer than I was. I want them to be a better guitar player or a better whatever it is than I was.
Or grow longer hair. Yeah.
Or grow hair.
Grow hair. Come on. You've already achieved that. You've achieved it. You've
been there, done that, man. Yeah.
Been there, done that. Hair's overrated.
Well, 2 of my boys are well on the way to beating that record of my long hair. So, but, that's...
Well, they're never going to make it as carpet layers, I tell you.
It's probably the one thing that I think if they said, hey, we're thinking about giving carpet laying a go, I'd say, yeah, don't.
No. Yeah. And look, thank the Lord for all the carpet layers out there. We love you.
We need carpet layers in our world. I'm just not one of them. Yeah, it's funny, and I think I've mentioned it before on this podcast before, but, I remember Jerry Seinfeld, somebody asked him about, are his kids funny, and do they want to be comedians? And he said, oh, yeah, maybe, blah blah blah, and they said, so do you critique them if they come up with material? Do you critique them and tell them what they could, when it's terrible or whatever? And he said, I don't need to do that. He goes, all I need to do is keep encouraging them, because the whole world will tell them if they're no good. It doesn't need to be me that does it. And I just love that idea of, as a parent, our job is to try to encourage our kids, to get behind them and to tell them that they can be great, like you say, a balance of
Yeah.
belief and
Instruction.
competence is important.
Yeah. Yeah, competence and confidence should have a correlation.
Yeah.
Um, and again, an immature mind doesn't necessarily have the correlation between competence. It's the whole thing of, a baby says their first word and you congratulate them on their mastery of the English language. It's just that as they go, they're probably going to have to learn a few more things. They eat their first carrot. You're like, solid food. Yay.
Yay!
Whatever, first steps, all those things. But I think that up and to the right learning thing that happens through those early years, I still remember. I have a funny memory of when I felt like I could play guitar. There was a day
Mm.
when I picked up the guitar and it just sort of clicked for me,
Yeah.
and I could drive a rhythm with a guitar. And I can't tell you what happened up until that point. I just know that I could do it. And there was something in me that went, "Oh, I might be okay at this." It still took me a long time, literally years and years later, to
Yeah.
actually get the confidence up to, play that live in front of people. But that's another part of it. But the learning curve along the way was, for me, the instruments were in the house. There was a guitar there always. You could have a play of it. No one was precious about it. There was the opportunity to try.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I keep coming back to this sort of, and again, I don't want to sound, sugary sweet about being encouraging, because a lot of people hear that word and they're like, it's got to be positive atmospheres all the time, always. And I'm like, no, but I grew up in a space that was positive, but my goodness, there was, I was aware of when there was an argument on in the household. I was aware of when we'd fallen short of expectation as children and things
Yeah.
like that. So, it wasn't all sugary sweet and lollipops and stuff, but the pendulum was always swung to the positive side, to, pull your socks up, let's go again. Did you ever have the shouty coach, the person that pushed you with negative reinforcement?
Not as a kid, no. I can relate to it.
The workforce has done plenty of
Yeah, I
that for
tell
you,
you,
though, right? Yeah.
I can relate to it. In as an adult joining the CFA, the Country Fire Authority, and thankfully at the time I'm like a 40-year-old bloke, and I've been in sort of senior management roles for a while, and there's a bloke that's yelling at us that we're doing everything wrong. You don't know what you're doing or whatever, and it was almost like a bully kind of approach. And
Yeah.
we were all newbies, and there's 5 of us, and one guy who's like probably 60 at the time, he's almost crying out of this
Oh, wow.
this bloke. And I just stopped the guy and said, "Hey, you've made a really good you've made your point very clear of all the things we've done wrong. Tell us some of the things that we did right, because maybe that will help us to be encouraged, because at the moment we're not."
At the moment, we ought to light fires, not put them out.
Yeah.
What is so you basically put on your senior management hat,
Yeah,
and
and
managed up.
Yeah, and we're not doing this. And
Yeah.
afterwards he apologized to me, and he sort of said, "I'm really
Yeah.
sorry, I get a bit carried away, etc., etc." But it was a good example of this sense of knowing what it's like as what kids must feel like when they're just constantly being told what they're doing wrong. And I am so conscious of it, particularly with my oldest son. And I don't know if you find the same. The oldest child tends to get most of the pressure of things, that I'm just constantly has this expectation of him performing better, being the best person. The next kids down the line don't get the same pressure. And I'm really conscious of it. And I'm like, try to pull myself up all the time, every time I feel myself saying, "Hey, mate, you can be better at that. You can do better." I'm trying to encourage it, but I'm sure that's not the way it's coming across. No.
Yeah, I feel like, when I think about the things that there's that discovery of the passion, there's that good and perfect gift that we're trying to call out of our children. We're trying to find the thing. You appear to be good at music, you appear to be good at mathematics, you appear to be good at science, whatever it is, and you're trying to draw that out. And I think the parent's job is to, first of all, do that part, but then discover the rhythm with which the child can learn. So there are going to be times where, I have to direct the gift because they don't know as much as they think they know. And that's the delicate balance we're talking about here. So that's where, for me anyway, that's where I start to outsource the teaching. So, on a music thing, I'd get them a music teacher.
Yeah.
So I'm not the one saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not the one saying that's the wrong note. Get them a science tutor, or get them involved in a science club, or there's something external to you. I think there's a point where the talent becomes yours to gently hold and somebody else's to lead.
Yep. Mate, as we sort of, wrap up the conversation, the one question I've got for you, because I struggle with it, and I can only imagine having 5 kids, let alone having one kid. One kid and being a parent is hard enough. Not saying that it's harder with each kid, but it's just different. How do you go when you're making the lunches, or you're making the dinner, or you got the kids in the bath, and one kid just needs a bit of encouragement in something? You see them do something amazing, or you can just tell they want it, but you are not in the brain space to do it. You're just in this task mode. As a dad, I think we get caught in these task modes. How do you stop yourself to go, no, this is important that I do this now?
Well, of course, the honest answer is that sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
The honest answer is that sometimes I miss the moment. Sometimes I miss the moment to the point of I see my child crying, and I turn around and think, what happened? And it's just that I've misunderstood what they were asking me. I've misunderstood what they wanted me to focus on. I think I suspect what I'm trying to do most days of the week is remember that their world is tiny compared to mine. I am massive in their world. And that's the size of me is going to diminish as their lives go on, as they leave the house, as they become independent, all those kinds of things. So you and I exist in a world that's coming at us all the time, and we're trying to be the big, defender of our family and defender of the children. And so we are often exhausted by the fact that I've been fighting all day to, keep the wolves from the door, kind of thing, in whatever way you're doing that. That it is very, very possible to miss the gentle moments. So I try to remind myself of the size of me in their world, the importance of me in their world. And that's not an arrogant statement. It's just a statement of fact that the parent in their home, the leader of the carer, whoever you are to the child, the person that spends the majority of the time with the child, you are massive to that child. You are the representation of everything the outside world is. Now, again, putting aside that they have access to the internet these days, there's a slightly different shape. But we have to remember the power of our words, the power of our actions, and the power of our moments. There are moments to grab. And I want to encourage people, even as I'm feeling a little bit upset with myself right now as I reflect on some of the moments I've missed. Stay, spend more time. Another moment is coming, and you'll catch the next one. And that's probably the encouragement I give myself. Because there is just a legitimate. The other day, I think the socks weren't dry because they hadn't gone through the dryer. The couldn't find the toy that was needed for show and tell, and then someone fell over trying to leave the house and grazed the elbow. And you've allowed 37 seconds for all of this to happen, and you've got to get to work. And we all know that scenario. So if you miss a moment, there's another moment coming. We are there to draw out the gifts in our children. And I do come back to James's writing that says every good and perfect gift is from above. So I keep coming back to trying to help them anchor their understanding as best as a child can. We wrestle with it as adults too. From a faith perspective, I want them to anchor their hope in Christ. I want to know that He is the rock, He is the cornerstone that will not move, that cannot be shaken. And so they bring their lives to that's the cornerstone on which to build their lives. And I will try to be the encourager and instructor where I need to be, but ultimately I will hold that distance between their self-confidence and my need to instruct really lightly. And I will hope that I lead myself well so that they see a balanced person in front of them when they think of the person that's casting the biggest shadow in their life is protecting them, not holding them back. And I think that's all she wrote for today, Heath. But mate, I would like to say that as a upper middle manager with less hair than you used to be, who can't hit a cricket ball anymore, I love you just the way you are.
I love you, trumpet and trombone all together. It's like, preferably at the same time. Just, I don't know.
I don't even know. Hang on, I should have had a trumpet ready.
Oh man,
I've got something. What have I got?
Oh, he's got something. This could go anywhere.